Good evening, fellow Plexers. Tonight's video will be for Chris. He has ripped the TV series Taken from a bunch of DVDs, and he's renamed them basically, and he's not sure what to do with extras. So I want to start this video right from the scratch. I want to rip a TV show myself. I don't have the Taken disc. This is Casper's Scare School. I just want to go through the steps so that we see what the ripped file names are, and I want to show you an easy shortcut to rename a bunch of files without using FileBot. So let's just start this off. Let's see what MakeMKV finds. And I'll start the rip process and then I'll pause the video. And I'm running Pop! OS. It's a derivative of Ubuntu. I don't run Windows. I haven't run Windows since 2006. I've installed it a couple times for different tutorial videos, but I just don't use it. So we've identified what's on the disk. So this looks like all the shows in one big master file. We don't really need that. And then these are the individual episodes. Looks like I've got 12 episodes. So I'm going to uncheck the master file completely, and we'll just grab everything there is for the individual episode files. So I'll click the MakeMKV, and it's going to create a folder named Casper Scare School with the underscores. We'll just click yes, and I'll wait for the estimate before I pause the video. All right, so it's only a couple minutes. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 35 minutes. I will be back. And I'm back. I don't really need to wait for this to finish. There's 28 minutes left, because all I really need is the example of how the files are going to be named as they're ripped. So if I go to that folder, the first episode is partially written. Well, now it's fully written, and the second episode is starting to come in. We can't add these files to Plex. They have to be renamed. But let me just steal that. Let me copy that. And I will go to my Synology NAS. Now I've got some files prepped. I've got a folder called Taken, parentheses 2002, to represent the TV show folder. I have 10 episode files. But let me quickly rename these to more represent what you may see after a MakeMKV rip. I highlighted all the files and I'm choosing rename, and I'm going to find a replace text. So I'm just going to paste that in, and let's see, I haven't thought this through. Well, I guess I'll have to do this manually. I can't do it all at once, so it won't take long. All right, so this represents what we have off a typical rip. And let me just call this one I'm going to let that represent a special feature. All right, so we're pretending these files are ripped from the taken DVD. The next thing we need to do is take a look at Plex's support article. Let's see, where are we? The Your Media section, TV show files, naming, and organizing. This is our primary support article, and we can get into this local files for TV shows and trailers and extras. So if I click into this, this tells us at first the basic media structure. You should have a media folder or a shared media folder. It can be named anything you want. And then this is a library folder for movies, a library folder for music, and a library folder for TV shows. You can have multiple folders of each of these. And then your movie content goes in the movie library folder and so on. So if we slide down, we've got some important notes, and this basically tells you the format of what Plex wants to see. It's looking for a show folder name for the show. The example is Bands of Brothers with a year in parentheses, and then it's looking for seasons named Season 01, Season 02, so on. And then the first episode file would be the same as the show folder name, Band of Brothers 2001, and then you use a space dash space as a separator to the season and episode coding. And then you have another space dash space before you have the proper episode name. The proper episode name is optional. And if we slide down, it's going to talk about episode ordering. I set my whole TV show library to pull from the TVDB for episode ordering under the advanced settings. And if I need to, I'll manually change back to TMDB for an individual episode. A default Plex library pulls episode ordering from TMDB. I prefer TVDB for many reasons. Now these are the options for the individual show level. These two options, the first two, you can set the default library to either one. But at a show level, you can use all four of these as on an individual basis. Now this date-based television show talks about how to specify the date, and it says dashes, periods, or spaces can be used. But this does not mean you can use a plain space in place of the space dash space separator. You can actually use a plain period, but Plex doesn't give an example of that with TV show libraries, but they do in one of the advanced movie library support articles. So as we slide down, it tells us how to name multiple episodes in one single file. Cartoons do this a lot. There'll be 2 episodes in one file when you rip it off a DVD, sometimes 3. So it would be Season 02, Episode 18, episode 19. If there were 3 cartoons in one files, it would be E18-E20. You don't list every one, it's the range. And there's no space dash space in this part. And then this tells you how to join 2 files together. You don't actually join them together, but Plex will treat 2 files as one. This is split naming, and I generally use part 1 and part 2. No spaces. So it would be the normal episode name, and if you wanted the the normal episode file name, if you wanted the episode name in 2, you'd have it here, and then it's a space dash space with one of these choices. So it'd be space dash space part 1, and the second file would end in space dash space part 2. And then here's some examples. Right here is an example of the split naming. So we see the show name. We see a specials folder. This could be season space 00 or specials. Here's season 01 and here's the files in it. Same as the show name, space dash space, season episode coding, space dash space, the episode name, and they're showing the split file naming here. So let's move into the two databases that Plex use, but before we do, I missed something here. I missed two things in this. My filebot expressions will pick this up. And that is extra information. Extra information in the episode file name belongs in brackets, and you can mark it as 1080p, Blu-ray, or whatever you want. In a movie library, we would call this versioning, and we'd use that same space dash space to create versioning. In the TV show library, brackets tells Plex's scanner to ignore anything in the brackets. And then the other important thing is that you can use the source ID from either TVDB or TMDB, either or. And most series will not have a year listed at TVDB, and Plex recommends that you add the year even though it's not listed that way in the database. So let's take a look at Taken in each of the relevant databases. Okay, so we're in the TVDB. I use this by default. I change my advanced settings to pull episode ordering from this. So this is always my naming guide. And if I look for the aired order tab, there are no specials. 10 episodes for season 1. If we go to TMDB, 10 episodes. Let's go into season 1. And this is where you have to make sure that your DVD rip matches. Sometimes it's just a perfect match. If you have 10 files, 1 through 10 will be a match for this. It's not always that way. Back at TVDB, you can also sort by DVD order. That may be a better match for a rip, but lots of times DVD order is the same order as the aired order. So if we look, Taken, John, Dropping Dishes, God's Equation, Charlie and Lisa, Maintenance, Acid Test, High Hopes, Jacob and Jesse, Beyond the Sky. So at TMDB, it's always aired order. At TVDB, there's also the extra DVD order. So if you check at TVDB and the DVD order matches the aired order, you can basically assume that your sequential files off your rip is a match. So let me go to my video directory. We'll see how Casper Scare School is going. So even though we've got B1, B2, B3, B4, and then C1, we have a sequence going after that. 01, 02, 03, 04, 05, 06. So if this was actually the Taken DVD being ripped, you could pretty much assume that it would be in the correct order based on the entry at TVDB. That's why it's important to be familiar with both databases. So again, Casper is just an idea. we're using to know how some file names are named after they're ripped. It really has nothing to do with this show. So let's go back to TMDB. Something I noticed, there is a special listed here, Inside Taken. So if you have that from the rip, you know the name of it. So let me just copy that, and I'll go back to my files, and we'll rename this SOOE01. We know it's the first episode of the special because that's all there is. But if we go back to TVDB, there is no specials. So that presents a quandary if you use TVDB as your default metadata base in a Plex TV series library. And we'll get there. We'll show you how to do it no matter which way you use a library. So now that we have this, we know basically that 01, 02, 03, 04, 05 through 10 is the right sequence. We can rename these without using a renaming utility. We know the show name is Taken. So if I just copy that to my clipboard, I can create some folders. Let's create season 01 and season 00. And you could also call this specials. Plex will accept either one. So this one's easy to rename. I've got the show name, space dash space, the season episode coding, space dash space, and the episode name. So now I can get rid of that and drop it right into the season folder it belongs in. Well, let me put all these in the season 1 folder. They're all highlighted. I'm going to right click and choose rename all of them. So I'm going to get rid of that first part. And replace it with this. All right, so I'm getting rid of this all at once, and I'm adding this in. So here's a preview. No file naming utility was needed. All I had to do was verify that I've got the right sequence. And you can actually view these episodes a little bit and compare it with one of the database episodes to see if that episode makes sense. With Kids Cartoon, it's really easy because within the first 20 to 30 seconds, usually there's an episode name tag telling you which episode it is. So kids TV cartoons are really easy to identify. But let's just assume these were all in the proper order. So all I have to do is hit rename. And I have basic Plex formatting. I don't have the episode name in here, but I have everything that Plex needs to scan this in, all in the proper sequence. So now let me bring in my web app. So I'm going to put these on a test server that's made up of public domain media, and it's going to go in this library. But if I edit it, my advanced settings shows episode ordering coming from the TVDB, and there's no special there. I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to leave this to my normal preferred setting. But if it was a normal library set for the movie database, I won't have to do anything for that special. So let's move this into position. Right, it's in my main TV show library. I'll paste it into that. And this test server on my NAS will scan automatically when it detects changes. Right, we see it scanning the show. And so the Plex's library settings, let's go there first and talk about that. The latest and greatest scanner and agent are the Plex TV series and Plex series. What Plex does is daily, maybe a couple times a day, they scan both the movie database and the TV database for TV shows and new shows and changes, and they aggregate all that metadata into their own scanner and agent. And that's why you can name from either database, and that's why you can use the source ID from either database. Plex will accept naming from either one, but it's advantageous to sometimes use one or the other. TVDB lists a lot of virtual series, things like old movie serials. The Looney Tunes is a perfect example. And I know it's disjointed, but let me just show this. Tom and Jerry's another one. All right, you see Looney Tunes 1929? Okay, so this is done. If I go into seasons, these seasons are named just as you see them. Season 1929, season 1935. Well, these are old movie shorts. Cartoons were just shown before movies, and these were never actually on TV because TV didn't exist. Well, the TV database helps all of us Plex server owners out by creating a virtual series for this kind of content so we can keep it in a TV show library and not have to have all kinds of individual short movies. What am I looking for? There's a lot of content here. I think it adds up to over 1,000 when you add it all up. So that's a real boon to us Plex server owners. It's very helpful. All right, let's go back to the server. So it's detecting intros. And even though I'm pulling episode ordering from TVDB and there's no special there, Plex basically brought in a special without metadata. And this is a short 5-second clip that I just made up as a dummy file. That's why you're seeing this. Now, because there's actually metadata for these episodes, we've got everything we need. And if we click into this, you'll see the metadata came through. All right, so I'm going to adjust this show, see if we can get the special fixed. So at the show level, I'll edit it, go to advanced, and now I'll go to episode ordering and change this one to the movie database aired, save changes, and now I'll have to refresh the metadata. And let's see what that did with the special. Now that I did that, the special has metadata. And it brought in poster art from the movie database. So this is one of the small examples of what I'd have to do on my server because I pull episode ordering from TVDB by default and not the movie database. This same series on your library using TMDB as the episode ordering by default wouldn't need any adjustment. But you do the same thing if you had a series that you set to DVD order. So let's go back here for a second. If Taken had an alternate DVD order where the episodes were listed in a different order, you can make this manual change too. So when you first scan the media in, no matter how the default ordering is set for the library, TMDB, which is always aired, or the TVDB aired order, you'd have to let it scan in knowing that the episode metadata won't match correctly, then manually switch it to DVD order. We'll show that option too. Advanced settings for the show. You could just as well pick the TVDB aired order, and then just a simple metadata refresh will then link up with the right metadata for how you've ripped your media. I know this sounds awfully confusing for someone who hasn't done this before, but these are the steps. And the biggest step we didn't talk about a lot is when you rip your media, the onus is on you to make sure that the sequence is correct. We can assume all we want, but it might not hurt to check the episodes to see if they're the right order. You can go to the database, either database, and click into each episode and read a little synopsis of it, just to get an idea of what's going on. And if you see this scene, you know you've got the right episode. So it's up to you to manually get these into the right sequence, to the database you're going to use by default, or the one that you want to use by switching to it after the initial scan. So Chris, I've got one more thing for you. We're going to go back to our Plex support articles. Now this is a Plex Pass feature. The seasons aren't. Oh, well, let's talk about the specials first before we go here. So with this example, there's only one official special, and it's listed at TMDB, and we made that work for us. If you wanted, you could do this. Let's doctor this dummy file up. Let's doctor this up twice. Okay, so now I have, or I'm pretending I have, two specials that aren't listed in either database. And I've simply given them the name SOOE02 and SOOE03. If I go back to the Plex server, let's scan this manually. All right, so now the specials show 3 episodes. Well, these have no metadata to pull, but that doesn't mean they can't be edited. Let's just call that behind the scenes. And you could add in your own graphic if you wanted. I should probably edit that better. If you were going to do this, you want to give it a date too, past the TV show series date. So what you would do is go to the last episode, and look at this date. I'm going to copy it. So let's make this a few years past it. So if we click into it, we've got December 13th, 2006, and let's do the same with this other custom special. Let's put that a day past it. So you add your own custom names, you add your own custom posters if you want, and you set a date for it. And now if you go to the series level, you can play the series in order with this button, or if you manually start the first episode, your continue watching will show everything in series by the date. Now, sometimes it's dangerous. If you had Battlestar Galactica, the reboot, for example, well, the first couple of specials are the miniseries broken up. I think it was on over 2 nights. So the master play button would play everything by date, and that would play the first 2 specials, which were the original TV movie, and then it would go to season 1, episode 1, and play that. So this play button goes by date, and you can add custom specials if you want. So let's go back to Plex in a second. Let me take these 2 and copy them, because we'll use those files again. Okay, so let's go to Plex support. So the local files for TV show trailers and extras are not available under every client app, and this is a Plex Pass feature for the server owner. So on Android mobile and iOS, everything works. On the Plex HTPC and smart TVs, everything works. On Roku, on the Roku ecosystem, extras and specials at the show and season level work, but not at the episode. Apple TV and Android TV, it works on the show and episode level, but not the season level. And the Plex web desktop only works at the show level, meaning you won't even know if the specials work when you're in the web app, because you won't see it completely. So you may want to start the HTPC client app to see more. Let me see, where are we? Yeah, the HTPC client app for all operating systems, you can see all the extras. So if you're a Plus Pass subscriber, you'll automatically get trailers and extras for shows. But now things have to be named properly. And here's the formula for that. And here's some examples. So in the Game of Thrones show folder, you would have the interview as a separate file, and if you had a couple trailers, you could put them in a trailers folder, and featurettes and stuff like that. To be honest with you, I would just probably have them listed as unnamed specials, unlisted specials, and just add your own custom date. It's the easiest thing to do, and it will play in order. But you can do this if you want, and here's the types of extras you can have. Now, the unlisted special idea will just show up in every client app. And this will show up in the client apps where the features is enabled. So I'm not really going to do this. Well, I can do this. Let's see if it works. Let's see, the web app can only do it for the show level. And okay, so local show and season extras, local episode extras. It kind of gets complicated. So this is how you name for the show or the episode level. So let's just try this behind the scene. Okay, so we've got that folder created. Let's copy these or cut them into that. So well, we're already at the right level behind the scenes. So let's see what happens now as we rescan this TV show library for the last time. I've never added a TV special, so this doesn't look like it worked. Let's refresh the metadata. Nothing at this level. All right, let's take a look one more time. I'm going to pause this and see if I can figure this out before I end the video. All right, that was a quick fix because there was no fix. I was looking in the wrong spot. I simply had to slide down. So here's the default trailer that Plex pulled in by itself. And here's those two extras I added. And if they were normal scenes from the show, they'd have a better graphic here. So I click into one.
Plexer.
I don't want to play it. I guess I can't click into it. You can only start it. So at least it is labeled how I've labeled it in my file structure. I'll look at season 1 and season 1 deleted scenes. So that did work. And what I was first doing was pulling up my HTPC client app. And of course, they're also here. So Chris, I'm not a professional YouTuber, but I know a lot about Plex. And hopefully this will help you as you rip your DVD and Blu-rays for your TV show library. The most important thing is to make sure you've got the sequence down pat. And without even using FileBot, I know I've sent you some information on FileBot, but without using FileBot, you can do a lot just with the file manager of your default operating system. Again, I gave up Windows a long time ago, but I'm totally sure that you can highlight everything in a season folder, right click, rename, and that you've got a find and replace option. And say this was wrong. And you wanted to edit everything at once because you had the wrong year. Well, it's pretty easy to do quickly and not have to rename each individual file. All right, everybody else, thanks for watching and happy Plexing.